Welcome. In front of me is a Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra, and today I will show you a couple tweaks and tricks you can do on this phone. So to get started, let's open up our settings. So I am gonna grab the pen first. And settings. In here, we can start off by navigating to the sound and vibration, and then scroll down to separate or sound quality and effects, and then adapt sound. This is one of the options that are exclusive to Samsung's, and what it allows you to do is tailor the sound or equalizer specifically to your hearing. And the way it does it, it will play you, first of all, we do have a couple pre-made options actually, which are different age ranges, but I do recommend creating your own one, which will then play you a series of different sounds that will be heard either on left or right side of your sound periphery. You do need to use earbuds or headphones for this. It will not work with the actual speakers on the device. And the benefit that isn't actually listed right here is that if you have some kind of poor quality earbuds or headphones that may, for instance, struggle producing some kind of low-end noises or sounds, and the test right here goes over them and you can't hear them because, for instance, the earbuds are playing them way too quietly for you to be able to hear it, it will boost that sound up and hopefully make up a little bit of this kind of poor quality with the equalizer on its own. So it's a pretty nice option, and obviously it also covers the intended purpose of it, which is the typical hearing loss based on different age ranges. So highly recommend going over this. Once you set it up and enable it, it will be permanently on until you decide to actually turn it off, and it will work with every application and basically throughout the entire device, as long as you're using some kind of sound periphery that isn't the built-in speakers. Anyway, moving on to the next option, which will be under the display section. Here we have the dark and light mode. And outside of having just these two modes that you can switch whenever you want to, they also show up throughout the setup process. You do have the option below that for settings, and this will allow you to select it as a schedule, which will then switch from light to dark mode based on the time of day, or on a sunset to sunrise mode. Now going back, scrolling a little bit further down, we have motion smoothness, and here we have two different options. We have the adaptive, which utilizes 120 Hz max refresh rate, but it can drop as little as, I believe it's 1 or 10 Hz, which will preserve a little bit of your battery life by doing so, though that will only happen with the screen on. And below that we have the 60 Hz, which is obviously a little bit more choppy, slower looking, might not look and feel as good as the 120, but will give you a better battery life if you tend to use your display quite a lot, and might be a very good option to select if you tend to read books on your phone and maybe just kind of fiddle with the pages a little bit. This would force the device by default to normally run at 120 Hz as long as you're fiddling with it, so it obviously would waste a lot of the battery on something that you don't need at that kind of refresh rate, so 60 might be a little bit better for that kind of purpose. Now going back and scrolling a little bit further down, we have the adaptive color tone. This is basically what you could classify as the Apple's or Samsung's version to Apple's True Tone display. When enabled, it just kind of tries to match the color temperature, for instance like the white of it, to the warmth of whatever room you're in. So if you have, for instance, like a warm light, like I have one, not this one, this one right here, which you can see in a reflection, that is like super warm light. If I would have that only, the display would become a little bit more yellowish to kind of match the actual environment that I'm in and how warm that actually looks like. And below that we have the screen mode, which is basically color temperature or preset. It's always set to vivid, which personally I find it to be a little bit too overdone. It is too saturated, specifically in images like these ones. So I myself like to select it to be natural. Though this is completely preferential, so obviously if you like the vivid, that's great. Samsung sets vivid up, I presume, just because the phone will look better in a line of different devices in the store, which obviously you might get, your eyes might be most attracted to something that just has the most poppy colors, and obviously this one does. It's like stupidly saturated. So anyway, I like to select it to natural, which gives me a little bit more toned down colors, and it just brings everything a little bit more to desaturated level, but still looks good. Now, scrolling a little bit further down, we have a couple things that might preserve your battery. So here we have another one, which is the screen resolution. By default, it's going to be, I believe, set to the highest one, which I could be wrong about this because I know that the previous Note lineups did use the 1080p instead. So if you want to get the best kind of screen quality right here, you might be interested in the Quad HD Plus resolution. But personally, I like to select it to be at 1080p just because I don't really see much of a difference in this, and it just kind of puts a little bit of a less strain on the processor to need to render this kind of resolution, therefore giving me a little bit better battery life, or in theory it should. Now scrolling even further down, we have a couple additional things. We have the edge panel. Now you can turn that off. It's this panel right here that you can barely see. Get it out, there we go. And you can also tap on it, the text itself, and this will give you options for it. So you can customize how big this kind of pop-up here, how much it sticks out, what the color, transparency of it is, and all that stuff. Now, talking about it, let's get it out first. And we have a little edit button right here, which we can utilize to add more applications to it. There we go. And when you go back, you can see we have, there we go. Now we have actually scrollable panel. So you can add as many applications as you want, though probably you want to limit it to like your most used applications, the ones that you just want to, for instance, maybe pop up on a pop-up kind of view, or maybe in split screen. So those would be the designated apps that I would recommend putting here. Now, with that being said, this has additional benefits right here. So let's say I'm going to open up some kind of application like gallery, then I can just get this panel out, grab YouTube, and hold it and then just drag it out. And as you can see, depending on where you drop it, it will either split screen it. If you drop it to the top, if you drop it to the bottom, it's going to split screen at the bottom. And in the middle, it opens it up in a pop-up view. Now, once you drop it, obviously it will split screen. And what you can do next, when you have this kind of split screen, if you want to have some kind of app combos, like for instance the gallery and YouTube that I have open right now, we can close this now. And you will see that it appears right here. Now, specifically these 4 applications are ones that have been most recently used. So this will cycle through it and later on it will disappear. So what you can do is grab it and then drag it to the bottom, drop it, and now you have access to this app combo. You can tap on it and quickly open up both of these applications at the same time with just a single press of a button. And we also have additional options right here. You can click on this gear icon and access additional panels. So there's couple that come with the device. You can also access the Galaxy Store to search for free ones or buy paid ones if you want to. Some of them are decent, some of them might not be. Let's see if we have internet to even look at it. And we do. So we have Apple-esque kind of control panel right here. We have just specs of our device, like the CPU, GPU kind of load, battery and all that stuff, calculator, calendars, volumes, you name it. As you can see, we have a bunch of those. Now, you can also see that some of them are free and some of them are not, which is kind of, I would say, a middle finger, considering these are kind of like, some of them are very rudimentary and yet they cost like a $1.30, $1.20, something like that. So it just kind of adds a little bit salt to this, considering even further that some of the ones that come here with the device are pretty bad. Like, why would I need this? If I use a pen, I can just access this right here. It's completely useless. People, it's contacts. Again, not the most useful thing. weather one of the ones that seems to be useful, but from experience it's the biggest garbage out of all of them, just because the weather tends to not update when you whip out the panel. So you need to swipe down on it, on the panel, to reload it, and then it's gonna load that weather for a little bit too long enough for you to be able to basically close this, find your weather application, open it up, and have that load up naturally. It will do it faster than you waiting for that reload, which just kind of feels bad. Anyway, I'm gonna now move on to the next options. So let's go back into the display section, and in here, if we scroll down below the edge panel, we have navigation bar, and this allows you to enable gesture navigation. So it removes the buttons from the bottom and subs them for this bar, which you can swipe up on to go home, swipe up and hold, go to recent applications, and swipe from either side to go back. Now, I also want to point out that Samsung used to have the option to hide this little kind of bar, because it does, as you can see, it's not transparent, so it does cover a little bit of your display. Let's just go back somewhere. You can see it cuts into text, so it's not transparent here, which is also kind of crappy design. Now, Samsung used to have the option to just completely hide it, but the way it was hiding it, it would just shift it below the screen instead of making it transparent like a good option should have. And because of that, it poses problems with third-party launchers specifically, at least that's my experience, where sometimes I would swipe up 3 times to try to go home, and it just wouldn't register it at all. And this only happened with this bar being hidden just because the way it was hiding it. So Samsung now decided to fix that problem. As you can see, there's no option here anymore because Samsung decided to completely remove it on all the devices, which is fantastic. Instead of fixing the problem, which doesn't require rocket science to fix it, they just completely got rid of it because that's how Samsung does things. Why would you use third-party launcher when we can force you to use this one? I guess now we have actually reason to use third-party launchers, as this one keeps offering less and less options. Anyway, with that being said, this would conclude the tweaks and tricks that I want to show you, and if you found this very helpful, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and thanks for watching.